Okay, thank you everyone for joining. I can see people coming in now. We'll kick off in a minute or two. But in terms of today, we're going to be talking about building a predictable revenue engine that scales sales. So there's quite a few component parts. We're not going to cover every single component of a revenue engine, but just some of the key highlights as well that you need to consider when building a revenue engine. So I see a couple of familiar faces, which is good. Thank you for joining. If you'd like to as well, feel free to put in the chat where you are listening to this from. And yeah, some interesting people across the world here, different cities, some of them I know as well. Great. So without further ado, I will kick things off as the numbers have and keep rising. So in terms of today then, we'll talk about how to build on your successes, how to identify new market segments and geographies, how to effectively grow your existing accounts, how to build an indirect and partner channel, and how to integrate sales technologies into your revenue operations. So for those who don't know me, I'm James Kerr Reed. I'm the CEO and founder. I've advised over 70 B2B seed and Series A companies in the last 3 to 4 years, and happy to be here. If you've got any questions as I go, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can towards the end, but obviously conscious of time as well. So how to build on success, first and foremost. So there's three levers for growth when you look at increasing your revenue and really getting predictability, scalability, and obviously a repeatable sales engine at your company. You've got marketing, sales, and customer success. On the commercial side, there is obviously a dotted line into the operations, product, and HR, but we're not going to cover that for now. These are kind of the three commercial levers for growth, I could say. So in terms of to kick off with marketing as well, looking at the headlines, you need to know what your awareness activities are. So how are you attracting interest in your brand and in your company in terms of the value you bring to that audience as well? How do they find out about, how do they know about you? So with that interest, in your brand, you then need to think about how do you get those people to take that first step, that first action to saying, yes, I want to find out more, the acquisition step as well. Then we kind of move towards an activation moment. So that point of, I really understand what you do. Some people have referred this to this as the wow moment. And the sooner the wow, obviously the sooner as well, we increase the velocity of the sales process as well. Obviously, looking forward, there are obviously important things around nurture. This is often neglected in seed and Series A companies where we're trying to prove traction in the marketplace. We're trying to win customers. But if we are running successful companies, we're going to be around for longer than a year or 2 years. You know, the average acquisition, IPO, and sale rate globally is about 6.8 years. So even if you're going for a large exit, you're going to be around for a little while. So those early contacts you make, you need to think about nurturing them. And obviously the existing customers as well, marketing has a role to play there. Referrals and reactivations. So obviously increasing your referrals from partners and obviously the direct channel as well, but also looking to reactivate some of maybe those churn customers as well. So marketing will come into play here in supporting customer success and sales in order to increase the revenue of the company. In terms of sales, there's one thing that we like to look at as well that integrates the parts of marketing, sales, and customer success. And we talk about the golden metrics as well. So we've got the kind of leads, conversion rates, the deal value, referrals, and upsells to give you an overview. It's not the exhaustive list of the golden metrics, but it's certainly the 5 pillars that this is built on. So I'm wanting to show you guys an example of this today. Yeah, don't worry, I will. I see this coming in the chat, so I will definitely cover this. So if we were to take, say, leads, proposals, conversion, that's deal conversion into clients and customers, deal value and upsells. What we're wanting to see here is a small increase in the numbers of these different fields. So if we thought of them as sort of 1 to 5 stages, what we're going to see is that if we make a small change in the leads, that obviously cascades down to the proposal, which cascades obviously down to the conversion, this cascades down to deal value and the upsells. But more importantly is that within this, we're looking at a compounded growth effect. So we can obviously focus on these individual areas and, for example, increase our sales conversions from proposal to close. We can obviously increase maybe the amount of proposals that we create from our lead or discovery call to proposal. And we obviously can look at increasing our leads and traffic at the top end of the funnel. In terms of deal value, certainly we can adjust our value proposition as well, and maybe adjust maybe our buyer persona and ideal account profile to affect that as well. And then obviously the upsells as well. So looking at, where is that secondary sale, where is that extension within that company as well that you sign. So moving forward into example of what this looks like. This is an example from a pre-seed company who's only doing 10,000 monthly recurring. And if we were taking the previous example, they would have a annual recurring of 120,000. And if we made these small changes that we see in this slide here, the 4, 5, 5, 10, and 4, so working that out, it's about 6% average across all of those 5 stages in an increase. We could actually move the company to, within 12 months, an 84,000 monthly recurring revenue and over 1 million in annual recurring. That's a 780% increase. This is what compounded growth effects and the really clever and smart B2B tech companies are able to do, and what sort of CROs in the industry are able to pull those 3 levers to accelerate the growth rather than just being potentially a VP of sales and just hitting a number as well with your team in terms of new business. In terms of customer journey, I really like this framework that we use, the affirm, activate, acclimatize, accomplish, adopt, advocate. What we mean by that is obviously you've got a buyer's decision and they kind of affirm that obviously by making the decision, that activation moment where they have that first point of value. The acclimatize is when they've started getting used to your product and understanding how it works. Accomplish is a really key step, and that's important to measure what the goals that they have, but also if they accomplish those goals in the time frame that they wanted to when they entered into a relationship with you. Obviously, adoption is a true adoption of the tool, and they really understand it, and it's within their workflow to create almost a resistance for moving away from your piece of software or your platform. And then advocate, this is someone that is a sponsor for your brand and your company, and will certainly increase your referrals, be speakers at your events, be people that will be on your blog and your columns. So certainly really, really important to go through that stage, in that there are different contact methods, there are different mediums in which to obviously measure these things, but it is obviously a customer journey to break it down into from the awareness obviously into that relationship as well. So how do I identify new market segments? We get asked this a lot as well by companies that are just starting to get traction, and maybe they should look at new buyer personas, new ideal account profiles. I mean, we've done a lot of work on this section before, and you can go to our website as well to download our free canvas as well. If you go to salesstartups.co.uk/3- assets, plural, ASSETS, you'll find it there. But in terms of be careful about really going after multiple personas. You need to ensure at this stage that you can have one use case that really brings value to a buyer persona and obviously a ideal account profile as well. Then you can move to potentially new segments. But I also would hesitate slightly in the, if you're an early stage, kind of like our audience is seed and series A, you want to prove it by moving from a founder-led sales environment to having that what we refer to as partner type salesperson, often the first hire. And then secondly, can you hire 2 and then maybe 4 or 6 to 8 reps as well to expand your market. And maybe in that bridge point, you will find that maybe there's new market segments. But be really, really careful about this. You can still look at new geographies. You can maybe look at more depth as well within those teams, maybe that you sell to within companies, but be really careful as well. But obviously this canvas will really help you flesh out and compare your existing target market, and as well as a proposed new one. So how do I grow my existing accounts? That is a very big question. One of the biggest failure points in seed and Series A companies is that they are absolutely hell-bent on acquisition. And I understand why. There's a huge payoff in terms of seed and Series A, ranging between sort of 500 to 2 million at the seed level, and in Europe, anywhere between sort of 2 and 15 million at the Series A rate. So there's a hell of a lot of upside as well. So yeah, I can certainly understand why people are trying to go after acquisition, but retention and net revenue retention is really a precursor for success and for long-term profitability. What we see in B2B SaaS companies over, say, a 6-7 year acquisition and IPO period is that often the existing customer spend and obviously lifetime value contribution to the overall revenue of the company starts to overtake the new business acquisition, because they obviously are paying the majority of the company's expansion, and hence are really, really important. It becomes obviously harder often to sign new clients, obviously, as your market share increases as well. So a couple of things to consider as well when thinking about growing existing accounts. There's some things you've got to think about. The first is obviously what's your structure, which obviously breaks down into your roles and responsibilities. So retention, renewals, upselling, and cross-selling. Who's going to own that between, sales, customer success, and even what role does marketing have to play in this as well as product, and what are the interactions between those different members, and also who is owning that as well in terms of management and oversight. Really, really important question as well. In the early stages, that will often be the CEO, but will that be the VP of sales? Will that be a lead customer success manager? Will that be a head of customer success or a VP of customer success? These are all considerations that take some real deep thought and analysis in order to make, rather than what often I see as quite an emotional and sometimes illogical decision by CEOs. Yeah, I see in the comments that it does happen. Yeah, I agree with you. So in terms of the incentives as well, incentives do drive behaviors. So how you set up your commission plans and your bonus schemes, and obviously your progression paths and performance reviews, do ultimately reflect behavior of these individuals in your team and in your structure. One of the other things is also segmenting the customer base as well. So depending on where you're at, you probably have quite a broad range of different customers at the early stages. Some that came through referrals through the VC investors and angels, and then some that obviously you've grown and hit organically, which often means there's kind of quite a widespread, not only just in account profile and buyer persona, but sometimes also within that, the size of those customers, the use case that they have as well. So really try and segment, obviously at top level, maybe by the company size and employees and some of those simple things, or customer lifetime value. But I would also really point you towards looking at the use case at this point, because if we're trying to get market adoption, we need to understand what are our customers using the platform for, and then obviously that will enable our operating model, and in terms of the cadence in our team meetings and other things that we service, and obviously it will definitely reflect back into the structure of the team. So some key problems we hear a lot about is churn, poor customer satisfaction. Do we have enough resources? Is our product fit for purpose? And who's taking care of growth and expansion? I hear phrases like my customer success people, they can't sell. We're losing customers. For every 3 customers, we're losing 2 customers. We just don't have the bandwidth right now, so I'm doing it. Some of these things need to be really evaluated properly rather than giving a kind of emotional blanket judgment as to how the company as well as the product interacts with the market. So be very careful here, but certainly some common problems here. The one thing I would say is a lot of people talk about customer journey mapping. I agree that's a valuable exercise, but go one step further as well within this exercise and think about, you know, how the people receive value and what they would see when they receive that value, even down to kind of the product and feature level. So what will I see in my reports when I click on this screen? So we're really talking about kind of user stories in terms of the level of detail with regards to that customer success journey that you are articulating and obviously drawing out here as well. So you can even then really give confidence as well to those new buyers, especially if you're selling at the mid-market and enterprise level. There's going to be an emphasis on what's the onboarding and ramping journey of your customers. How do you make your customers successful? Now, if you're able to tell the story and how customers are successful and what, for example, features and parts of the product they're using consistently in order to reap value, it's really going to reflect in terms of product development, operational spend, obviously retention as well. It's not going to be a second consideration. It's going to be an exercise that from day one until maybe day 365 is actually part of your focus as you grow. So decision-making units as well, obviously for those obviously wanting to expand accounts, there's a couple of good things. This comes from Miller Hyman actually, which I quite like, the user, specifier, sponsor, and economic person. So in terms of obviously user, sponsor is that coach, that person that's brought you in is a big fan. The economic is obviously the budget holder. The specifier is the person who articulates the outcomes in which you're trying to achieve with that project, with that product, what it's there to solve as well. So very, very important that we match obviously those goals and accomplish those goals. We talked about obviously that framework with accomplish before. So certainly think about that. In terms of other ways to look at it, obviously you've got decision makers, influence, and implementers is also a nice, simple way. And there's interactions between these different layers as well. So must-haves that when setting up your account plan, you need to give some further thought to goals and objectives, the people, the resources, both internally as well as externally. Who are going to be those people within that company that are obviously going to help make this project a success? So what are the underlying, therefore, projects and activities that are going to need to be done in that first 30, 60, 90, 180 day horizon in order for this to be a successful journey? And then think about the resources you may need as well, some of the risks and contingency plans that you might need to create as well. From user behavior, what we see in the first 30 days is X. If they don't log on and use these 3 features, we see an 80% chance of churn. These things are really important for the product team to be enabled with the customer success team, and also within selling obviously great use cases to the market for sales as well and marketing. So KPI metrics are obviously really important as well, that you think about not just those lagging metrics like net churn or net revenue retention. You need to be thinking about things like indicators like logins, use of features, customer requests, even customer complaints is sometimes a really good point as well to be measuring over time. Customer engagement as well, whether that's in the chat or the intercom function is going to be important. So cool. So how do you build an indirect and partner channel? So some key considerations, quite a lot of people on the line. This may be a bit too early for them, but I just wanted to give a brief overview here. So what do you have that they don't have in terms of that partner? What do you have that they don't have? And who are your ideal customers? Are any of them theirs? What would the first 30, 60, 90 days look like? What value can you give them? So really important that you think about the value to the partner first in terms of for them and what can you give them. In startups, what we have is creativity. We often have perseverance and persistence. So we need to cash that in and often do more work for the partnership to mobilize than the other party. And it's certainly a give relationship to kick it off. So talking about sales technology into your revenue operations. So before you implement new tool technology, you should ask yourself these things. So how is the job done now? What can be eliminated, started, or improved? Will the customer benefit? Will we benefit? Who, how, and over what time frame will we measure? Oh, thanks to the mistake on 3. Certainly expand it to 5, no problem at all. Couple of key areas that we see sales technology work well within. Obviously, you've got CRM, but call and recording and conversation intelligence is a growing field that's very, very valuable. Proposal software certainly enables the sales team and the marketing team to collaborate and to think about, how we can articulate our value clearly. And obviously, it's a lot easier for people to access those previous proposals rather than trying to find out V7 on the SharePoint drive, Lucy's got access to. It's not very helpful. So lead sourcing is another one. There's some great things around lead quality, lead sourcing as well, lead index. There's lots and lots of tools there. Revenue operations in terms of looking at deal intelligence, looking at where deals are maybe not following consistent trends based on previous buying habits and therefore put at risk, and then get manager alerts. These things are really, really valuable to be using in your company. Document storage, clearly, if you've got lots of sales collateral and marketing collateral, having a central place in which that is deposited and obviously used and modified and edited makes life a lot easier. That could be like a DocuRated or something like that as well. So what we covered today is how to build on your successes, how to identify new market segments and geographies, how to effectively grow your existing accounts, how to build an indirect and partner channel, and how to integrate sales technology into your revenue operations. Cool. So I'll hand you guys over to questions. Got a couple here in the chat. So yeah, got a question around the existing accounts here, and what tools would you use to analyze the user behavior of existing accounts and those new customers? Yeah, some good tools like Mixpanel is a really good one to look at, app usage and analytics there. So you can do kind of cohort analysis as well and look at trends there. You can obviously do this manually if you're like pre-seed or seed as well by just using, some smart formulas, some exports in terms of some of your data for your product and then manually manipulating it. But if you're wanting to grow, something like a Mixpanel is really, really good as well. If you do use a customer chat function like Intercom as well, that's also a really good reporting as well to take on customer engagement, customer requests, customer complaints as well, frequently asked questions. A really good resource, not in terms of frequency but also doing some text analysis on those conversations you're having. Cool. Got another question here as well about how would you look to expand into a new market, and when would be a good time to do that? Would that be seed or Series A? Good question. I think in terms of new market segments, like I said, primary use case, one persona, one account, getting your sales motion and the messaging right is really important. For most companies, I would say that probably over 50% chance that it won't be until Series A that you'll be looking at new market segments and geographies. You may have some initial interest and land and expand in others, but you're not going to have a weighting in terms of those other regions initially. It doesn't mean to say you won't have customers in new regions, but it won't necessarily be a key part of your success. Got another question around sales technologies. If you're a early seed company, what are the ones that you'd recommend first? Yeah, really good question. I think early stage for me, it's around the CRM's got to be a central focus and the single source of truth. I know that Salesforce have overused that word, but it's and phrase, but it is really important. The other point is, I think the call recording and conversation intelligence is super, super valuable as well. You can sit down as a team and listen to a couple of calls. You can even skip to when the customer speaks as well, or the prospect speaks, and analyze those top 3 or 4 calls of the week. You may only be having 10, 12 leads a month. So if you can analyze 3 a week as a team, and spend 45 minutes or an hour in your team review or weekly review, could be a really good use of your time. If you've only got 1 or 2 salespeople, super, super smart. Doesn't cost a lot as well to implement as well. You've got people like Refract, Gong, SalesLoft is a partner of ours, and something that we really like internally as well. And there's obviously some extensions to the Zoom Pro as well. Cool. Okay. I see there's quite a few questions to get to here. We're coming up to time. So I'm certainly happy to answer any questions. I'll leave the chat open, and feel free to buzz your last questions in, and we can get to them via email if we haven't answered them today. So thank you very much, everyone. Hope you really enjoyed today, and yeah, look forward to seeing you soon. If you want to contact me, I'm James Care Reed, and LinkedIn is the best place to find me. You can search my name. It has a weird hyphen, but this is obviously the link. And you can always obviously visit my team at salesforstartups.co.uk if you're interested in looking to build a predictable and scalable revenue engine. And you can book a time there with my team. So thank you very much, guys. Great to have you as well. Thanks for all the questions as well. I know I can get to them all, but we can come back to them as well via email in due course. Thank you very much.